Well, United are back in the Champions League and have a tough-looking draw. There's a visit by Ipswich Town at the weekend, and we still haven't signed a left-back. Who knows what's going on in the transfer market? Here today with Dominic Booth. How's it going, Dominic?
Yeah, good, thank you, Ed. Are you still buzzing from watching the rigmarole of the Champions League draw, or are you absolutely fatigued and knackered by the whole process?
What is the point of that whole draw thing? They fly all those executives out there, have them sat in a theatre for 2 hours while they do absolutely insipid interviews with various stars of the past. And then it's so bloody complicated because it's this league phase. They can't even do the old pull their team out of the pot proper draw. The computer has to decide 95% of it. Anyway, what's the point of it all? Could just press a button and give us the fixtures.
I am no advocate for AI, but if there was one task that AI could really easily do and probably save everyone loads of money and save the environment, everyone flying out to Switzerland, I think it's just an excuse for UEFA to justify their own existence in many ways, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we had a story this morning that UEFA are trying to press criminal charges in a Swiss court against Gianni Infantino and FIFA. They filed a bunch of lawsuits in the States as well. The discovery process there is lots of fun. They should get a lot of information through that process. It is, by the way, just as a little aside, why lots of people based in the States are quite happy to call Manchester City cheats, because if they ever did sue anyone, we'd find out an awful lot about what their shenanigans are.
That's a good point, yeah.
It is a good point. It is a good point. Anyway, Champions League draw.
Back to UEFA. Actually, UEFA are the good guys now. I forgot that UEFA are now the goodies, so we can't criticise them as much.
What do we make of this draw then? I'm going to pull it up. From pot one, we got Bayern and Atlético Madrid, so it'll be home to Bayern, away to Atletico Madrid. I mean, there weren't really any easy draws out of pot one, really. I guess we could have got Inter, would have been better than Bayern. But, yeah, reprisal of 99.
Got the top on.
I got the top on. Atletico Madrid, we just played in pre-season, although I think they were missing quite a few of their stars. What do you make of the two big ones?
I think they were more difficult ones to get, actually. I know a few people text me saying tough draw as soon as it came out, and to be honest, I didn't watch it in real time, the draw. I had other things to be doing with my life.
Many better things to be doing with your life than that.
The proliferation of live blogs now actually really helps. You just get someone on the BBC or the Guardian website to watch it for you, and then just tell you the teams that you're interested in is actually the best way to follow these things. So yeah, saw them come through and I got 3 separate messages saying tough draw. And it is, Bayern and Atletico probably both fancy their chances of beating United on recent European form. Pedigree in the tournament in the last decade, probably. But then you've got Real Madrid, you've got PSG, and you've got Barcelona, who United haven't drawn out of that pot. So I think, you wouldn't want to get 2 of those 3 that I've just mentioned, one of them away, which is probably a guaranteed shellacking. So I think those 2 games look like games United can take points from, and then the rest of them are definitely games United can take points from.
Yeah, I think they're 2 free hits in a way, aren't they? The Bayern Atleti games. I mean, it is the first season back in the Champions League after a couple of years. It's a very different side than the last time we were in this tournament. It's a different format, of course, as well. I mean, UEFA loves to put this kind of magical spin on it. It's the best ever, blah, 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 blah. I thought actually the league format was pretty tedious last season. I mean, they did a new thing this year where you can't play the same team you played in the previous tournament in the league phase. That's why I said there's so many rules around it. Of course, you can't play that there. It's semi-seeded. You can't play teams from your own country. Has to be 4 home, 4 away. Seeded to make it reasonably, and you can't play teams you've just played and stuff like that.
There's so many rules.
You can't play a team that plays in blue and black on a Tuesday night if the sky is like whatever. So the pot 3 teams are Sporting and Villarreal. That's pretty tough, I think, as pot 3 teams. I mean, Sporting won the double last season. Villarreal seem to it's guaranteed 0-0, isn't it? Just can't go to penalties this time. The amount of times we played Villarreal and not got a good result out of that is quite a lot.
You're bringing me out in cold sweats talking about that Villarreal Europa League final. It's still one of my least favourite memories of all time following United.
Yeah.
I've never forgiven David De Gea. But anyway, we go on.
Poor Dave.
No, not poor Dave. It was... Anyway, carry on.
So, I mean, Sporting got a new manager, haven't they? Or had a new manager last season. Halfway through the season, they went on this fantastic run. They've got Luis Suarez scores bags of goals for them. The other Luis Suarez, the Colombian one, not the biter.
Yeah.
I think Rui Borges is the manager. They've just sold Hillmand to Atletico Madrid this summer. I don't know how much that will impact their midfield. It used to bring me out in cold sweats, and he was always like linked with United when Ruben Amorim was manager, because I don't think he's that good.
Yeah, well, he was one of the most important players under Amorim, so
yeah.
I can see why he's got the move and why he was rated for a long time. It's an interesting one that it doesn't seem like, that's not an easy fixture at all, actually. I don't think Sporting, they could present United with some big challenges, especially away. I mean, all these away games, potential pitfalls given United's
I think so.
history in the Champions League recently,
Definitely the away ones are quite tough, like relative to the seedings and stuff like that. Yeah, Sporting away definitely has a potential to be a tough game. They haven't got a great record in the Champions League in recent seasons, but it's okay. And at home, Lisbon's a fantastic city to go watch football in. It's a fantastic city, full stop. Reds going out there will have a great time. Villarreal cause us pain constantly, don't they? They've got some really good players, actually. Miku Tadze, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. He scored a bunch of goals in La Liga last season. There's been some links with Barcelona. They're after number 9. I think he may be a full-back position for them. So we'll see whether he's still at the club when the window closes. Nicolas Pepe is there, I think.
Literally thought he'd stop playing football.
I did, and then he pops up in the World Cup and he played that 1-2, that wall pass with Ahmad, who scored that fantastic
quite
goal
nicely,
against
didn't
Norway.
He?
Yeah.
That's one of those transfers, him to Arsenal, that does not get talked about in terms of how disastrous that was. And if that is United doing that deal, that's gone down in the annals of history. But because it was Arsenal, people don't really care as much. Yeah.
Who else we got? We got Como away as well. That's going to be what a fantastic, beautiful part of the world that is. Lakes, mountains in the background of the stadium. It's a tiny little stadium that they've had to upgrade over the summer, so it even meets the regulations to get into European football. It's not quite a fairy tale story because their owners are billionaires who are just like throwing money at it for shits and giggles, I think. But when I've seen Como, they play nice football. It's Cesc Fabregas' side. I can't remember, is Nico Paz still there? He was their best player last season, but he's a Real Madrid player. Didn't they buy him back so they could sell him again? He's still at Como, isn't he? But they had to pay a huge amount of money to keep him.
They've got a few big names, like Morata's there now, and they got Chalobah from Chelsea. A few interesting footballers, like Fabregas is actually doing something really good there. You're right, they're not a fairy tale. They're kind of like the Wrexham of Serie A, I think. I'm not sure how the rest of Serie A view them, other than they probably all love going there on an away day, like you say. So United fans are going to love that and love Lisbon. I had my stag do in Lisbon, so I love Lisbon.
I went on a stag do in Lisbon and lost my passport and had to spend a day in the British Embassy trying to get an emergency passport back. Yeah, that was
nice.
Fun.
Standard fare for a stag do, I think, in Lisbon.
Standard stag do stuff, yeah.
I ended up wandering around the street, not being able to say anything and not being able to tell my friends on the phone where I was because I'd lost the ability to actually speak. The football would be good too.
Como... I was looking it up. Their ground only holds 12,000 people, and their standard away end is 700 people for Serie A. Maybe they'll have a few more in the Champions League, but it's a tiny little ground there. So if you get a ticket for that one, you're going to have to fight for it, or beg for it, or steal it.
One of the lucky ones if you get there, yeah.
Sabah at home. I mean, we should smash them, right? They are less than 10 years old, Azerbaijani champions, and they've had to play a whole bunch of games even to get into the group stage. I think they're one of the lowest ranked teams in any UEFA competition. They're like ranked 250 something or something like that in the coefficient because they just like have no history at all.
It screams 1-0.
Right?
It screams 1-0 horrible goal. United win just by the skin of their teeth, despite everyone expecting us to smash past them. Genuinely, that could happen. There have been a few of those nervy nights, especially in the Europa League at Old Trafford in recent years against teams that you previously didn't know existed, whose names sound like a Wi-Fi password. So, no, all due respect to Saba, it's a bit of a revelation that they're even in the Champions League. Like you say, founded in 2017. I mean, what the hell? That's quite the story.
Yes, at home rather than a 12-hour flight to Azerbaijan.
That's probably a bonus, actually, given
Yeah,
given midweek games of this caliber are going to be a bit of a struggle for United, I think, because they've not done a midweek game against Bayern or Atletico and then a big Premier League away game, say, at the weekend. That's going to be really interesting. Really, really big test.
Yeah, the draw today was just the teams. It wasn't the order of fixtures. So we'll find that out on Friday, I believe, once they have done all that. Maybe that's why all the execs have to turn up in, like, wherever they held. Where was it? Was it UEFA headquarters?
Neon, isn't it?
Yeah. So they'll negotiate that, and then we'll work out exactly what the fixtures are. But yeah, have a look at that on Friday, and there's bound to be a couple of tough ones in there. That's just the way it goes. And then RB Leipzig. Back in the Champions, they were third in the Bundesliga and decent last season, but they had no European football last season because they had a bit of a disaster the season before, and then sold some of the best players. So, kind of interesting one. It's Martin Di Michaelis who's the manager there now, right? The former Argentinian.
They produce so many managers, don't they, Leipzig? Because all the managers seem to get poached. They always have a decent squad as well, you know. I mean, Nkunku's gone back there. There's
Antonio Nusa.
Nusa's a good player. Nyland's actually a really solid goalkeeper, I think. And
David Raum, who's been mentioned in dispatches as a potential United purchase left back. Good attacking left back. I'd say. I'd say he's not great. Be a compromise if United went for that one. Baumgartner scored a bunch of goals last season. I think didn't he do his ACL or something like that? I can't remember. He had a bad injury, so we'll see whether he's fit for this one. So yeah, they've got good players. They seem to have a model, don't they? Athletic, high pressing. We'll see if Di Michaelis has produced that kind of side as well by the time we get to them.
Was the last time we would have played them when we smashed them 5-0 in, was it COVID era? Definitely Ollie era United. But I think Rashford might have scored a hat-trick off the bench. We flooded them with late goals and I think won 5-0 and still maybe didn't manage to get through in that group. I can't remember exactly what happened, but
something like that, yeah. 8 games. I don't know. What do you reckon? This top 8 goes through. 9 through 24 end up in a playoff, 2-legged playoff in February. And so you got a really busy, Premier League in January's got 6 games or something like that.
I think you're going to have to win 5 of the 8 to stand a chance of getting through. Last year,
to definitely go through, yeah.
Real Madrid went 5-3, 5 wins and 3 losses, and didn't go into the automatic top 8. I mean, to not get into the top 24, you've got to be dreadful. You've got to be the reverse of that or worse. So you could even win 3 and lose 5 and get in that playoff round, the punishment round or whatever they call it. I think United would be good for that. I would have thought, because you look at the calibre of teams that can even get into that: Karabag, Bodo Glimt, Monaco, Benfica, Bruges, Olympiacos. That was all last year. So you'd like to think United would be at least in that category. But more games might be a really bad thing for the squad because, like we've said numerous times, they're just not used to playing them.
I mean, they've definitely beefed up the general quality of the squad, right? So you have 2 good options in most positions now.
Apart from left back, where there's 1 half-good option, and right back, where there's 2 half-good options. So, yeah, it's injuries. So, Mount is perennially injured. Shaw has a terrible record. Harry Maguire doesn't have a great record and is getting older. Martinez has played fewer than 50% of the minutes he could have played since joining the club. So you've got a bunch of players who we already know are likely to miss time. And then if you look at the injury record of teams that were in the Champions League or European football last season, they generally run with about 4 to 5 injuries at any one time. That's just football when you're playing twice a week. Take 8 players out of this United squad, and then we look a bit thin on the ground, and so and it's just the critical positions as well. Central defence and left back, I worry about. In theory, it's good, but
I suspect in practice there'll be a few times that we're a bit thin on the ground with some of those, and obviously no backup at striker now. That Josh Zirkzee looks like he's off.
Yeah, do you think, Ed, that Carrick will sort of Ferguson style devise a special plan for some of these European away games? I mean, United have been good off the ball and on counter-attacks under Carrick anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll simply be that template that's transplanted into those away games?
Maguire actually said it, that they were looking to move to a more possession. They wanted to keep the ball more. Bruno was very frustrated at the weekend in his interview, saying we made the mistakes of last season, giving the ball away. He was partly culpable for that, of course. The impression I got through pre-season, and certainly what Carrick has done before, is that they were going to try and build a possession-heavy side. If you do that, you really need to be better at pressing as well. Maguire said they want to had the defence to be higher up the pitch. You can't do that without pressing. You can't, right? Otherwise, there's going to be gaps in behind. Too many, you give the ball away, the opposition is allowed to have the ball too much. So that's what I thought they would do more of this season. They're not there yet, and in some of these games, that would be pretty risky. So I imagine that they will sit off in a sort of mid-block and counter in some of these games. It's basically what they did to PSG in pre-season, isn't it? So I wouldn't be surprised if they do that at all. It's quite easy to devise a plan that does that. Got good counter-attacking players. It's just he's trying to move to a more possession-dominant style.
You can't do it every game, though.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it's definitely a risk. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, especially when the games are really, really, really thick and fast in November, December.
I am wondering whether it might actually suit United and whether we might see more success in the Champions League than maybe in the Premier League this season, or certainly more memorable results. And yeah, I think that you're not going to be able to hang on to the ball. Atletico Madrid away, that's obvious. Even Bayern at home, you'd think, but Bayern will come to Old Trafford and try and have the ball and dominate, given their squad and everything else. So that plays into United's hand in a way, and the one thing that Carrick has proven he can do is to set teams up on the counter. That's probably doing him a little bit of a disservice, because United have had patches of playing genuinely really well and dominating teams, but not a lot, and it remains to be seen whether they can do that even against the worst teams in the Premier League, as we've literally just seen against Hull, and we'll see against Ipswich at home. So maybe this plays into United's hands and we see a pretty positive Champions League performance. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, or maybe just a positive spin, Ed, that I'm giving it to feel good about myself.
All right, well, that's the Champions League. We've got 5 days left before the transfer window closes. Are United going to do any more business? I mean, it seems like the noises are they've been sniffing around every left back in Europe, or maybe they realise that, especially with injury problems for De Ligt and Martinez, historically, Maguire getting on a bit, and Heaven and Yoro being pretty young, that they could do with someone who can play both positions. I don't know if I like that as a theory of the case. I really do think that both Cunha and Rashford benefit significantly from having someone who actually is a very good attacking left back. I don't know, what do you think? They're going to do some business? They have to. They can't go into the season with one left back.
I think they've set their stall out that they will get a left back. It doesn't mean to say it'll be the player that everybody wants, and I think obviously that player is Lewis Hall, and that looks very unlikely to happen now. Maybe United are doing a bit of a belabour and setting their stall out for Hall. I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't back in for him in the short term. Yeah, it probably has to be. I was having this debate on another podcast. It has to be, for me, it has to be someone established who is ready to go straight in. And even if that player is 28, 29, as long as they are first team ready, what Carrick and his staff and the United hierarchy consider first team ready, that has to take precedence over like a young development option, because in my mind, we've got a young development option at the club, and he's called Harry Amas. And for whatever reason, the club have decided they don't think that he's good enough. Fine, they're probably going to send him out to the Championship permanently or on loan. That's going to happen. So you're going to get another development option like this Salinas from Santander, or Saiz from Club Brugge, and ask them to play in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid away when Shaw can't play. I think that's asking a lot. So it has to, for me, be a ready-made first teamer.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the conclusion I got to. I mean, I think like the romantic in me would say, yeah, sure, go get the kid, and with the higher ceiling, and that's if you're building a squad, that's a preferable option long term. But I guess it depends on how confident they think they are of doing the Lewis Hall deal next summer. If they really feel like that's going to happen and they're going to pony up the 50, 60 million or whatever it's going to cost to get Hall out of Newcastle, because he's on a long-term contract, so the contract situation's not any different in a year's time, then that makes sense to get a older player who then becomes a rotation option next season. If they don't believe they can get Hall, they just have to move to someone else, right? They have to go, okay, what's the best option? So no idea if Salinas is any good. By the way, Racing Santander just come up from Liga B or whatever it's called, Secunda. They're playing Friday night. If you want to check him out, they are home to Elche Friday night. If you've got nothing better to do, I might watch that.
There'll be a massive spike in their viewing figures from United fans eager to see that if this lad is actually any good, or is he just a name that people have put out on social media?
That's right. Yeah. Who knows? I think he's got a very low buyout clause, hasn't he? So there's a lot of teams looking at him for that reason. But yeah, if I was United's hierarchy, the least risky option is to get someone a bit older. But the problem is they've gone down that road quite a lot, haven't they? You know, Tellez and I guess Malassi was Region. Fuck me, Jesus.
Sorry to mention them.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they might have sounded out Balde from Barcelona, who has a pretty bad injury record. I'd say a lot of muscle and hamstring injuries, which maybe needs to get in the Pilates classes with Luke Shaw.
The thing is, I don't think United are going to spend big money in the remaining days of the window. They have spent the money where they think it should have been spent, which is on the midfield.
Yeah.
So anyone thinking a 50, 60 million signing is going to, just come out of thin air in 4 or 5 days we've got left of the window is dreaming. It's just not going to happen. And I know I got called a shill and a propaganda merchant of Ineos for writing a piece today, which is actually about the Glazers' poor recruitment in 2021. Some reader on The Guardian spanned that as, oh yeah, this guy's just PR jobbing for Ratcliffe and Ineos. So you can say anything now and get accused of stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm saying this is what they're going to do, and United fans should probably get used to that and think about who the options would be that isn't a £60 million Lewis Hall.
It is funny that you can caveat as much as you like with any kind of analysis, and you'll still get accused of the thing that you like. I've had to, in my writing on my newsletter or on here, anytime I mention Marcus Rashford, say, by the way, earlier in the summer, lads, I said I think it would probably be best for the club and for United if Rashford moves on and we just move on. And I can caveat that, and then I'll get people in my mentions going, you Rashford bum boy licking his ass. Yes, I think your analysis there is probably correct that they are very unlikely to do a massive deal. I imagine they'd much prefer to do a loan with an option, that kind of thing, or a €20 million purchase, something like that, to fill out the squad. It's risky, though. It's risky. If you get someone crap, Reguilon was so bad that Ten Hag preferred to play Amrabat at left back. It's like
who was the last genuinely good loan player that United had?
Henrik Larsson.
It's a question. Yeah, probably is Henrik Larsson, isn't it? Yeah, that shows. There's been a few in recent years that have all been pretty dreadful. Yeah. Amrabat was one of them. Yeah. Sabitzer was okay, I suppose, for a little bit. Weghorst, okay. Poor, Igalo, Reguilon. I mean, there's some awful names. So it's never really gone well when United have done that, because I think that there's just been a feeling that this guy's not here for the long term. The fans don't fully back him, and it becomes a bit tricky. I just don't see it as it's not a particularly Manchester United thing to do. I mean, Spurs can loan Omar Mamouche and have an option to buy, and it's fine. But United haven't done it with any success, and it just screams a bit small club. Yes,
it does. Yeah. Well, Spurs are managing their finances with that one. I imagine they will buy him if he's not a total disaster. But yeah,
there's something odd going on with the books there, isn't there, Ed?
Very odd. Yeah. Although under squad cost ratio rules, you can spend 115%. Well, they're not in Europe, right? So their cap is 85% of their revenue can be spent on the squad. That's transfer fees, the amortized portion of their transfer fees this year, agents' fees, the first team manager, and wages, right? So, but they can stretch it to 115%. They pay a luxury tax basically in the following year. So if they really want, they can spend huge this summer and still come within the rules and not get a points deduction, as long as they then don't spend any money next year, basically. It's a big financial gamble from them, I would say. United are not prepared to do that. I mean, because of our ownership structure, the owners can't really put money in, not that the Glazers would ever want to. Ratcliffe could, in theory, if the club issued new shares, but that would dilute the current shareholders. They did 2% and a bit of that when the takeover was. It was that $300 million. I don't see him doing that. So spending above cash flow has gone on the corporate credit card, basically. They're not going to push the boat out. It's sustainability is the word. And that is me analysing Ineos, not pushing out their propaganda.
No, and you could even dare to say it's actually been quite a measured approach from United in the transfer window, and they've gone after their targets carefully, and they've rebuilt the midfield in what looks to be a pretty coherent and successful way. But even that might get you criticism from some. That is pretty much the most composed and collected response to United's transfer strategy you could possibly put out there.
Yeah, very good.
I can't wait to sign Balde on loan and him get injured for this whole season.
Why can't we sell players, Dominic? What is it with the club that they do? I mean, even someone like Josh Zirkzee, who's not on massive wages, was successful in Italy, so should have a good rep. He's not been a total disaster at United. I can't actually name any good games he's really had for United. It's not been very often.
Palace away last year when he scored that goal from a tight angle. That was probably his best game.
He scored a brilliant goal at Rosenborg in pre-season. It was very nice. In front of about 3 people and a sheep. He never really fit because he was not a number 9. He was basically he called himself a 9.5. He's more a 10. He was never going to get in the team ahead of Bruno Fernandes. And he's not a proper striker. He doesn't even have striker instincts to score goals. He doesn't make the runs. So it was a really awkward fit. It was even more awkward with Amorim, basically, because where's he going to play in that team? Just nowhere. And Michael Carrick started him once. So it makes sense to get him out of the club, but they can't even sell him, it seems. It seems like he's going to go on a straight loan. Now, that may be updated in the next few days. We don't know the details, but reports of Fiorentina being interested. They just got a shellacking at the weekend, didn't they? Fiorentina.
Maybe they need him.
They probably do. But if it's a straight loan with a bit of a loan fee and wages covered, United then they're thinner without any real financial benefit. It's mad. We can't sell anyone. We haven't sold a single first-team squad member this summer.
No, I guess Sancho was the one to leave, and that was his contract expiring, and then Casemiro the same. Xerxes, I always wanted it to work with Xerxes, but I just never really thought it would because of all those things that you said. The positioning thing is strange because who plays with a 9.5 in modern football? What team plays with 2 strikers, one of them just off the other, which is basically where Xerxes wants to play? It doesn't really happen, especially doesn't happen in the Premier League now. Maybe in Serie A he can make it work. The pace of the game there may be more suited to him. That's an obvious thing to say, I suppose, but it doesn't mean to say that United can't get money for the guy because he's still young, and like you say, there probably will be people there waiting to take a gamble or willing to take a gamble on him. I would keep him around. I think if you're not going to get 30 million or something like that, 25 million, then it's probably worth keeping him as a point of variety to the attack. How much is he going to play? Probably not a lot, but it only takes an injury to Sesko and an injury to somebody else up front, and United are looking really thin there. I guess that's why we're seeing everybody talking about a potential late striker signing in the window, something which I don't think will happen, to be honest. Interesting situation. United may regret not having sold Xerxes or really pushing to sell Xerxes and getting cash for him earlier in the window, so they could now consider somebody who is a genuine Sesko alternative. like I'm seeing us linked with Jean-Philippe Mateta, I think he'd be a cracking alternative to Sesko, but I think it's unlikely to happen.
Yeah, and unless they sell for cash. Xerxes. Ineos, here's a piece of criticism, since we have to do that, otherwise we'll get called Ineos shills. They seem very reluctant to front load the purchases, right? Spend the money without having organised the sale of someone first. I mean, I know they have literally bought 3 midfielders this summer. It's what everyone wanted. They did lose one. They've lost 2, in fact, because Ugarte's injured. They seem very reluctant. It would have been the sensible thing to bring in a backup for Sesko and then try to sell if you were kind of ambitious like that. But they seem to have a lot of trouble. I guess the thing I'm confused about with their sales is, if you're Chelsea, you have some fucking reserve team striker who's no one has ever heard of that they managed to sell for 20 million. Liam Delap scored 1 fucking goal, wasn't it? Or 3? What did he get? 1 or 3 or something pathetic?
1 in the league,
season.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've made a 50% profit on him.
I got hammered on Twitter for suggesting United should chuck a cheeky 25-30 million in the direction of Liam Delap.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't have been enough, would it?
I mean, he ended up going for way more, but everyone was saying he's not worth that. He's nowhere near worth that amount of money. But he's an English striker who's 23, who still probably has a high ceiling and has actually done it in the Premier League with Ipswich. Okay, not with Chelsea. But he was trying to get past João Pedro at Chelsea, who I think is a fine footballer, to be honest. So, yeah, but United aren't selling anyone like Liam Delap for anything like that money. Xerxes and Liam Delap, is there a massive difference? I don't know.
We obviously need to move past the banter era to something stable, and I guess the regime are very keen to get past we pay a tax, and so they've walked away from deals that they think are too expensive. Mateus Fernandes being the big one this summer. But they also have to get to a situation where there's enough of a halo around the club that we're able to move players on after their 2 years, which has been the stated goal. Like, if they don't work out after 2 years, you sell them and get a fee. When's the last time we got good fee out of Rasmus Højlund, I guess, from Napoli? That wasn't bad, right? It was about on book value. So
he was arguably our worst ever signing.
Yeah.
So maybe we should have been.
It was pretty bad, but we got about book value back for him. Cash loss, but book value net. We probably only need about 20 million for Josh Xerxes to net out on book value.
I think in order to put the banter era behind us, this is almost a final piece of the transfer puzzle, because the transfers incoming in the last 2 or 3 windows have been really good. This window, obviously, the jury's out. We'll hope that they will come good. They look like they will. They all tick certain boxes in terms of midfield profiles that we needed. And the previous window is really, really good. We are kind of commercially a little bit more savvy. And I know that's not universally popular with what Ratcliffe's done with redundancies and stuff like that. But this selling and inability to sell players for good value is the last thing that this United regime have not done. And it's like the final obviously, winning the league is the final frontier on the pitch, but this is like the final frontier off it, to get everything looking like we resemble a coherent, proper football club that runs properly.
Yeah, and part of that is wages and not paying too much, and they are trying to fix that, clearly. But you still get mad ones like Andre Onana's gone out to Trabzonspor. I mean, I mentioned this before, and the comments were like, well, who else are going to take? He was a fucking Champions League finalist 2 years ago, and I know his star has fallen because he's been crap at United, and maybe he's on big wages for a goalkeeper. But Trabzonspor are covering his wages, paying no loan fee unless they make it into the Champions League, and then they pay 1.5 million euros. We have a 9 million a season amortization charge on him. So he's literally costing us, in the best case scenario, £7.5 million this season.
He was always costing us when he was actually at the club, Ed, just in a completely different way, especially in the Champions League. Talking about the Champions League today has got me thinking about some of Andre's disasters in that competition under Ten Hag. Jesus, that was something else. But no, it's like,
yes.
I don't know. I just feel like United, we still ruin players. It's still a thing that people come to United and maybe their performances aren't so bad, but the PR they get is so bad. If you play badly for United a few times, you get hit with this negative stream of publicity and media coverage, and every pundit says your name 10 times every Sunday. Neville and Carragher do a whole segment on how bad you were. All the podcasts in the next week will talk about how bad you were, that one player for Manchester United. And they don't do that for so many other clubs. There's a handful of clubs in the world that get that treatment. So United are just like this walking sort of PR disaster for certain players if they don't make it. And that's why we do see these days certain players don't want to come. They don't think that they can live with the pressure, or they don't want to. They don't want to tarnish their career and end up at Trabzonspor or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I get very frustrated. I made this point on the pod with Wayne last week. Very frustrated with the ex-United player media machine that's out there. And it's not like I expect there to be great publicity for United all of the time. It was no different in the Fergie era. Of course, they were the story all of the time. And like a story that goes, hurrah, United won again is no kind of story, right? You know that better than anyone, right? So that's true, right? There is going to be a preponderance of negative media about United. But it is weird how the ex-United player pundit machine is like so negative. It's so negative. And I don't know whether it affects transfer values. It affects the players. Christian Eriksen said it. He said the players talk about it. Harry Maguire, I know, has had a lot of trouble. Like his family have let it known that it does have an impact on him. Marcus Rashford's had to go on social media more than once to call out Goldbridge and say stop. Right?
Yeah.
And it still happens. And Neville's got in bed with Goldbridge now. And you've got Wayne Rooney, who I like as a pundit. And unfortunately, he's sullied himself by appearing on camera with him who should not be named.
There's other players as well that have got done by it.
Of the ex-United players, who isn't universally negative? It's Rio, who gets, bantered off because he is so like, rah, United, fine. There's Schmeichel, but he cannot talk in anything that's not an incomprehensible word salad. Like, I mean, just like...
I knew you were going to say that because you've said it before, but it is so true.
I've said it before, but it's so true. You're like, what did you just say, Peter? I have no idea. It was words, and they were English words, but they were in an order that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Although I did find him quite funny. It's kind of unprofessional and slightly rude with the new Newcastle manager saying, we want your player.
Yeah.
What a question to get from a pundit on TV.
He's very anti-Liverpool, Schmeichel, which I quite enjoy sometimes.
I'm here for that. And then there's Owen Hargreaves, who is not bad, actually, as a pundit. Yeah. He doesn't get the top gigs generally, but he's not universally negative. But the Neville but Scholes triumvirate are horrendous. Like and Keane, obviously, there's not a single point of positivity. That is so reluctant. Like, you have to drag it out of them, basically, for them to go, yeah, actually, that was a good performance.
Keane doesn't even appear to like United anymore. I don't even think he should be classed as a United-leaning pundit, because he doesn't profess any love or affection for the club. He's still so bitter about his feud with Fergie, and he will not let that drop at any cost. And he's now got this weird feud with Carrick about his wife and stuff. So he's letting all that get in the way of his punditry, which has never been that analytical and particularly insightful anyway. So, the Button Scholes podcast is dreadful. It's just so dreadful. Negative. I don't think any United fan would listen to that wanting anything about United, because they're so pessimistic, downbeat about United. They talk about every other player and every other club like the best thing since sliced bread, and then Scholes won't even admit that Bruno Fernandes has been particularly good. It's like, come on.
I know, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. All right, let's transfer window and the media machine. Just have to. I'm going to keep moaning about that. I just can't. I find it so weird. There's no other club that this happens. Just no other club, right? And I guess the counter is, it's standards. They had standards, and you had to win. Yeah, true. But this team is trying to turn it around. It's not perfect, and we've got scumbags as owners. But where it's good, it's good. Bruno Fernandes was brilliant last season, and you won't hear any of them say that. Weird. Ipswich at the weekend then. Can we finally get some points? Because it's been talking in negativity, that defeat at Hull. It was like the sky had fallen in. I mean, it is bad to lose to a pretty... I think they're going to get a pretty low points total this season, Hull, because they haven't really strengthened very well. And they were 6th in the Championship, so understand the context. It was bad, but United need a good result now.
That's the thing that's making me really scared about this Ipswich game, because on paper these two games at the start of the season looked like gimmies and a lovely juicy 6-point start for Michael Carrick's boys to roll into the season with some momentum. But then you look at Ipswich's squad and you look at their performance last week in getting a win over Sunderland, who, proved last year they're no mugs in the Premier League. You look at Ipswich's recruitment, the likes of Enciso coming in, Emerson, the striker.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of sort of seasoned Premier League guys in from Fulham in Lukic and Diop. Maida I really rate from Celtic. I think there is a few players there who could definitely cause United problems. I mean, anybody could, based on last week's performance. I think I know about football, but there's a few players in that whole team I'd never heard of before. And they cause us no end of problems, especially in the first half. I know 2 goals from set pieces, so, there's context within it all, and players to come back for United from not being fully fit in pre-season, etc. But this is a test, and we're going to say this about every game this season, that it's a test. It's particularly important to just alter that mood, feeds back into what we've just been saying about the media machine, and just to calm that down a little bit. And if United win, and it doesn't really matter by how many or how, they just need to win, I think, to just give Carrick and everyone a bit of breathing space. Not that Carrick's under pressure or anything like that. It's one game. But, 1 becomes 2, and it's 2 newly promoted teams, and suddenly the sky could be falling in quite soon.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that struck me about the whole game, and not only did they didn't quite get the system right in the first half, they changed it around in the second half, pushed Marcus Rashford really wide to try and stretch the back five, which is what they had to do. They kind of called it wrong to start with and tried to fix it. I think the thing that surprised me is just the lack of sharpness of so many of those players, and I guess it's understandable, and it's kind of, I think a lot of fans saw that as a lack of commitment. I don't believe that, and Carrick got really annoyed with young Arga Fjortoft for saying, hey, you lacked passion. I don't think it's that. I don't think they don't want to win or don't give a shit. I think some of them were just like, they weren't quite sharp. Mateus, and I looked, I guess we thought they were all back for pre-season, but then you actually looked at it and 4 of the players in the side had 0 or 1 full 90 in pre-season. The 4 that came off the bench were in the same position. Right? They had 0 or 1 full 90 in pre-season. And so I guess it's understandable they're not quite sharp enough. There's been a few top teams in that situation, although Arsenal looked fine against Coventry, didn't they? So there's some, you can understand like a few percentage off, and then obviously it was a brand new midfield with Santos and Tielemans really hadn't played together. Santos and Mount were playing in pre-season, or Fletcher. So a few understandable reasons why it wasn't quite as smooth, but you'd still think that the quality would come through, and I guess that was the frustrating thing. They had a lot of shots, 21 shots in the end, but very few really clear-cut openings.
Yeah, and that's what needs to change. They need to, if they want to especially play this slightly more dominant possession-based style of football, they need to overwhelm teams like this with lots of really good chances. And the XG looked marginally in United's favour from the whole game, but it didn't tell the full story, like you say, of the quality of chances that were created. It's a concern that so many of them lack sharpness when, like you say, Arsenal and other teams seem to fly out of the blocks, and they had a lot of players, by the way, Arsenal, who were involved in the latter stages of the World Cup. So why is that any different? What have United been doing? Is it even an error on Carrick's part in terms of this selection? Should he have just picked the guys who he knew were fully sharp? Maybe he just, he reverted to the 11 that everyone thought he would pick or thought he should pick.
I just wonder whether Cunha wouldn't have started if Ahmad hadn't got injured, because Ahmad and Mbuma had been playing through the centre most of pre-season, and Ahmad wide right, and Dorgu played a lot of football, and I wonder whether he'd gone with that. Dorgu, I thought, was a mistake because he's not a small spaces player. You want multiple phases of attacking, recycling, don't you, if you're going to play this style of possession football where you drag players out of position, especially if they've played 5 at the back, Hull, sometimes 6 because one of the midfielders dropped in, 4 in front, and they just had to move the ball around better than they did and switch play from right to left and vice versa much more often, and it just didn't really happen like that. And so I wonder whether Cunha was a last minute because he hadn't had a lot of football pre-season. So, well, what do we get then? Like, any changes to the team? Did Rashford earn a spot in the team? Who would he come in for?
I think Šeško's more likely to come in if he's deemed to be sharp enough to do so, and I think it's an obvious that Šeško comes in for Dorgu and Cunha goes to the left.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect any other changes. I don't think. I think that, like you say, that midfield just needs time to get used to each other. 2 brand new players. Everyone else needs to get used to them as well. And they did look to be a bit of a disconnect between Bruno and Tielemans at times against Hull. Tielemans, he's kind of like an esoteric player. He has his own particular set of skills, and I think it's quite unfair that people were singling him out for, the lack of legs or lack of work ethic or whatever you want to call it against Hull, because that's not his game. He's a creative playmaking midfielder. Mm-hmm. United need to just get him into the game more. I know he wasn't in the game enough, I don't think, against Hull. So that'll take time. I wouldn't want to see wholesale changes from Carrick in this one.
Yeah, I don't expect there will be. It's Šeško. Can he last an hour? I mean, he had no pre-season at all. He's been back training for a little while, but that it's such a shame, isn't it? Because you really wanted him to have a good start to the season. Because last season he played 30-something games last season, but quite a few of those were off the bench. It was stop-start. He was injured, came injured.
He had no pre-season last year either. That's worrying.
If they think he can get an hour out of him, then they might start him, I guess. But I wouldn't go with Cunha up front again. It's just not. I don't like it when he, especially with Bruno and Tielemans, you've got 3 players there who basically want to work in the same zones, and I think that's part of the reason why it felt like a disconnect between Tielemans and Bruno. They need some time to work out who takes up what positions on the pitch in this system. I mean, I guess there's a chance that Mainu could play. I don't think he'll start though because he hasn't had a lot of pre-season either. Did he play in the game against Milan?
He had a little bit of time. Who would you pair him with though? If you was to start Mainu, who does he start with? Santos,
yeah, I guess, yeah. I don't think we're going to see a lot of games where Mainu and Tielemans play together. I mean, except this kind of game at home to
it should be
club that's come up from the Championship when you expect to have 70% of the possession. I guess you can do it, yeah. Baleba not fit. He's come with an injury, so we're not going to see him till October, it sounds like.
All that excitement over a signing and then that happens. The amount of times that seems to happen, especially to United, is crazy.
Yes, if you really want to be cynical about things, yeah, you'd be like, is that ankle injury going to heal on time? He'd be out to January or something, knowing our luck with that. Oh, well, yeah, need a win. That's number one, but it would be nice to get a good performance. But I agree, I think Ipswich are a dangerous Gary O'Neill as well, who's caused us some problems in the past. Kieran McKenna stepping away from that one after getting them promoted, I guess, 5 years, and he's like, all right, move on to something else.
Yeah, he didn't seem to back their chances of staying up this time, but their recruitment suggests that there are people at that club who really do fancy their chances about staying up, and
yeah,
they seem to be in absolutely everybody's predictions for who's going to go down Ipswich, but a lot of people haven't looked at their squad and looked at their opening day performance, and that might be a good time to reconsider those predictions. I'm not sure Ipswich they won't be the worst team in the league. United may have just played the worst team in the league, so that's what makes me so fearful about this. But you got to hope the Old Trafford factor and a bit of momentum gathering, and if anything has sharpened the minds of the United squad this week, it will have been that defeat to Hull. You'd think so.
Yeah,
a reaction is incoming, I think.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching or listening wherever you are. You can catch us on YouTube if you haven't yet done that. Finance pod this week, if you didn't catch that one as well, me and Jamie broke down the partial takeover at Liverpool and some of the economics around SCR. You might enjoy that one. Patreon.com/NQAT pod for our extra show, which will, now the season started, again be weekly. Got to work out a topic for that one. That isn't just transfer market.
It's deadline day on Tuesday, Ed, so you sorted there. There'll be 3 or 4 incoming deals for United to talk about.
Shall we do a live stream all dayer?
Oh, wow.
Joking. We shall not. I'll be glad when it's over and we can just talk about the football. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Dominic.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.